Hi, class. This is Jacob Edwards. I'm here with Timothy Hoogland from TH3D to go over our SME interview. Tim, my first question is, could you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got into your business space?
So this never was actually supposed to be a business. This was something that came about because I was involved in like the 3D printing Facebook groups and forums, that kind of stuff. And then what started this was actually the bed leveling kits that people know now is the Easy ABL. I just fashioned together a sensor with a board to safely connect it to my printer's control board and put it on a CR10 that I had basically gutted and overhauled, and posted a picture of the first print I did after off it because it came out really well. And people didn't really care about the print. They saw the sensor on there and they're like, how do I get that on my CR10? And that's what started it. I was literally making circuit boards by hand. This was back in, I want to say like 2017, like early 2017. I got my first printer in like December 2016. So, but I didn't know how to do circuit board design. I didn't know any of that stuff. But I had to learn because I was quickly finding that making boards by hand on perf board was not efficient. So, but I've always been into electronics. So it was kind of something that just, oh, I wanted this on here, looked up how to do it, and, came up with a circuit that connected the sensor to the printer board, and then subsequently also did the firmware, which was a huge side of it that people are still having trouble with. So it's one of the things. So I'm kind of on both sides of the fence. I've got actually a lot of college classes under my belt for programming, but the electronic side has all been self-exploration and just learning on my own.
You said that you kind of fell into this business. Before it, did you ever want to be an entrepreneur?
So I always had like, something on the side, so to speak. My background is in IT. So I was, I did everything from help desk when I was starting out, all the way up to project management. And then before I started TH3D, I was actually an IT manager for a trucking company. So, but I always had like computer clients on the side. At one point, I actually had a vape company that did like the liquids for the tanks and stuff, and even sold some hardware too for that, which that kind of also gave me some experience into like sourcing parts and whatnot and dealing with vendors. But that was never really something I went all in on. This is the first thing I ever went all in on, so to speak. Like, this is not a side gig for me or my wife. Like, this is our only source of income right now. So we're all in on TH3D Studio.
Yeah, but
So
the classes is getting ready kind of for that stage, and it's just going all in, and it's really hard to split your time between a full-time job and your extra gigs and stuff like that.
yeah, and like the turning point was, it was a combination of things. It was the time it was taking to just keep the little side thing going was exceeding what my day job was doing. Um, and then, the revenue wasn't that great, but it was okay enough to, pay the bills. It was a little tight for a while, but I also had my wife too, and we had gotten married, and then was working a full-time job. So she had, health insurance and stuff. So she was like, well, the only thing you were hung up on was the health insurance. You can go on mine for a while and see, how the business works out. And then that was in November of 2017. And then by April of 2018, she was working full-time for the company too.
That's a great, I mean, lucky. I mean, in some respect,
Yeah.
a lot of hard work, but it's great.
Oh, it's a lot of hard work. I will tell anybody that is thinking about being an entrepreneur, you're going to have many long nights. It's 2020 September right now, and I'm just now getting to a point where I can actually have some personal time. Um, so I mean, it's been 3 solid years of 80 plus hours a week, and it's rough, and it's hard on yourself and your relationship too.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come at no cost. It's not just, oh, let's just buy some stuff, mark it up and sell it. It's a lot of work. It really is.
And I think you kind of mostly answered the next question. How have the experiences you've had during your entire career influenced the way you now run your company? You mentioned sourcing parts. How about in terms of people and stuff like that? You mentioned
So what was that?
being an IT manager before.
Yeah, so I did IT management. I had a couple people that, not directly worked on me. It was a smaller company. But I did have people that I could, delegate things to for simpler stuff when I was in the IT field. A big thing right now, especially if you're doing an online business, is, startup costs have gone down a lot. I've been, I'm 31, almost 32. And I've been, I had my first website when I was like 12 on a tripod, so, but that was really basic. But like the cost to start up now is way lower than it was like 10 years ago. It's easier. You got platforms like Shopify and, Squarespace where you can set up a website in a couple hours. We use actually WordPress with WooCommerce for our website. And definitely as we've scaled, I've been able to leverage my IT background to have us use platforms that scale well as we grow. Like we use a lot of Microsoft products. We use Office 365 for all of our email. We use our Teams solution. Our phone system's actually on there now too. And then we also have a help desk, which you've used through Zendesk that we use right now. We did start out with Freshdesk, but if anybody wants my personal opinion, is don't bother with Freshdesk. There's a reason it's cheaper than Zendesk. But like that has definitely saved our company a lot of money because IT services can be expensive, especially if you get someone that knows what they're doing. So that's been something that's really helped the company out because there's a lot of technology involved with running an online business. It's also something that can help streamline just business processes and workflows too. So we can, have our smaller team work more efficiently. So we're not having a lot of waste. My biggest struggle for the company has been finding good people out of everything. It's been finding good people that actually take their work seriously and, don't call off all the time.
Yeah. And I'm just going to jump down to another one of my questions. Speaking of employees, how did you find your first employee? Was it your wife, or did you outsource before her?
So I had some friends that helped as like contractors on and off. They had like full-time stuff. And, when we were first starting off, we would do like batches of product. I would get a bunch in, we'd sit down and make them and then list them for sale. So I'd have friends that would come in as contractors to help me, be soldering boards, testing products. Back when I was first starting out, we literally had one product. It was just our bed leveling kits. That was it. And slowly added on a few here, a few there, started expanding. We have over 160 products now that we stock. So, in like 3 years, we went from one product with 2 variations to over 160 different products, with some of them having, up to 10 or 20 variations on them. But it was friends at first, and that works sometimes and doesn't work other times. I wouldn't say I've had more success or less success with friends versus hiring people outside. The one benefit, there's drawbacks to both when you hire friends. If things go sour work wise, sometimes, I actually had a friend of mine that I met through the 3D printing community. We hired him, and he's a good guy. He just wasn't a good fit for, the position we hired him for. And luckily him and I still have that friendship, but there's other people that, I wasn't super close with them, but it didn't work out and now we no longer talk, so that is the one drawback of hiring friends, is if, they're not understanding as, this is just a business decision. It's not personal. That's a risky take. But we've had, we haven't had a high turnover, but we have had people that just, they come in, they'd be good for a while, and then they start flaking out. And as a small business, I can tell you right now, if you're a small business, don't let people sandbag your team. Don't keep people around just because you feel bad about firing them, because firing people sucks. It does. It genuinely sucks. But the reality is that by keeping poor performers on your team and people that, are constantly complaining about stuff and, not doing their work correctly or being lazy, they're going to bring the morale of the entire team down. And we've also found that it's not even a direct correlation with even pay. Because we used to start out like our entry level people a lot higher than we do now, but we found it just attracted people that were just coming in to collect a paycheck and they didn't really care about what they were doing, versus starting people out lower and doing bonuses or little spot bonuses and stuff. One of our people, she was having issues with her car, so I helped her out with that, got her some parts and did the work on it myself. Little things like that goes a lot longer. Showing them that you actually do care about them. Goes a lot longer than, goes a lot further than just, having higher pay or, constantly throwing money at people, because it can have an adverse effect. People can take advantage of it.
Right. That was kind of another question that we have is, how do you motivate and reward your employees? And I think that kind of answers that. How many employees are you up to right now?
I have to count. Give me a sec, because we have our remote guys. Currently we have our technical support. Those guys are all remote. We got Tor and Mac and Peter. Those are our remote guys. They do customer service and technical support. They do a little bit of both, more technical support than customer service. So that's 3. We've got our engineer Griffin, who's remote. My wife, Aaron, myself, Rachel, and then we have 3 high school kids that come in part-time to just help with packaging and stuff. They work 2 or 3 hours a day, a couple days a week. So they're part-time, but like full-time people, we have about 8 full-time people and then 3 part-time people.
Yeah.
So
decent size for a small business then, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot to manage. I mean, it's hard. We have a guy, his name's Aaron. He's our general manager, and he handles a lot. He basically is just the guy that keeps everything moving so I can focus on more business type stuff. And, I do a lot of the R&D and development here, especially when it comes to like our firmware and stuff. I'm literally the only person here that works on that stuff. So, he allows us to actually be able to do things and, allow me to actually keep coming up with new ideas and staying on top of things while he makes sure the actual business side of things is running correctly. So.
And I guess that'll bring me to a bonus question that is not on our sheet. But the class we're in right now is advanced entrepreneurial finance. So we sit down there and we do kind of our startup cost. It's a big Excel spreadsheet where we have our startup cost, what we think our revenue generators would be, and then we taxes, expenses, we list all that out, and we kind of do that on a prorated basis for the entire month, so we can see, where we have to be to meet our expenses and how much we have to sell. Is that kind of what he does, or did you do that when you started out?
I actually, if we look at, you got all these classes and books and stuff that talk about what you should do and this and that. A lot of this, to be completely honest, has been by the seat of our pants. A lot of intuition and, it really helps to know the market you're in and being someone that's actually passionate, about the industry we're in. I'm a nerd. I like 3D printing. It makes it easy to see where there's gaps to be filled and coming up with new product ideas, that kind of stuff. We've never sat down and, done any of that like businessy type stuff that you read about in classes. It's all been just kind of listening and watching to the industry we're in, seeing what people like, what they don't like, trying new things and, seeing what sticks. We have had some failures that have cost us a significant amount of money. But it wasn't due to the product itself. It was actually due to incompetent and lazy employees. Yeah. So, it's I think a lot of people tend to overanalyze things. I overanalyze stuff all the time, and there's a lot of stuff that I'll sit down and weigh the pros and the cons and try to feel things out. And there's a lot of stuff that we say no to because, I don't think that it'll be, a big seller, or it's not worth the time to do that kind of stuff. And I'm sure there's stuff that, I probably made the wrong call and we didn't get into, and, we lost out on stuff, but, it also means that we didn't take that risk, but we've also taken a lot of risk on other things, and we've been pretty fortunate that we've been doing well, and, we've been making smart decisions, especially right now. Like right now, it's with everything happening with COVID and all this other stuff, it's taken the stress level from, the moderate to high to just through the roof. So, especially right now, you got to be careful with your spending.
Yeah. And so I think that kind of answers another question. Did you have any kind of formal training for your career? You mentioned keeping track of kind of what the market is. Do you go to conventions or do any kind of traveling for your business?
So when there were events, we would go to the events. One of the things is, just being a part, especially like in this industry anyways, just being a part of the community kind of keeps you up to date on things. But there's also a downside with that. I've actually pulled back a lot from being in the communities because a lot of people abused that access, so to speak, and it ended up being more stress than it was worth. But I do have, we have all of our people that, kind of keep an eye on things, and I keep an eye on all the manufacturers, what they're doing, what new printers are coming out, and then constantly looking at our own stuff that we're working on. There's really no textbook for it. It's just been being into the 3D printing space, and just being interested in it just naturally keeps us up to date on things. Most of the time I know about stuff before it's even launched because we do have relationships with some of these vendors. Being a company that specializes in upgrades and replacement parts and accessories, that's really important. So like we don't have our own printer. We make things that supplement the existing models, and, when we do printer builds, we start with existing off-the-shelf model and customize it from there for what our customers need. Whereas if we were making printers, it would be a little bit of a different story. But, we'd still be needing to keep up with what other companies are doing too, and seeing what stuff people are wanting from those machines.
Right. So what's the scoop on the Prusa XL? Do you know what the release date for that is?
I don't know what the release date is for that. All I know is that it's going to be a big Core XY. That's what I've heard. So they've been pretty hush-hush about that.
So without the kind of ability to travel out to marketplaces and conventions and stuff like that, are there any particular marketing mediums that you believe to be essential to kind of with drawing in your customers and selling your products? For instance, is social media really the all be all?
Like, social media is really important. That's what started this company. Was actually a Facebook group. It was a CR10 group, and it's still around. It's still very active. I think it's like got 40 or 50,000 people in it right now. Social media is good for getting the word out. It's really good for referrals. In terms of actually using it for marketing, it can be very complicated. Like, we're at the point where I'm thinking about hiring a marketing person because like some of the tools are just so convoluted to use. Like, I've ran some Facebook ads, but we really, like maybe spent like less than $500 spent over the last couple of years on Facebook ads. So we rely a lot on word of mouth. Myself and the other people that work for us, and just, people that are loyal customers, like, they go out and, refer people to our brand. And then we also have some affiliate marketing that we do with a couple of smaller channels on YouTube. But we haven't really given marketing a solid push. It's all been, like, I'd say close to 90%, if not more, has been just word of mouth, and, us doing what we do well, and giving people a good experience. not only keeps them coming back, but, when they get friends or whatnot, or they're on Facebook groups, they'll give us a shout out and be like, oh, I got my stuff from here. They're really great. That kind of stuff. And that goes a long way. And I think that is even a little more powerful than just running ads too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Word of mouth. I know. I don't know if I've said it yet in the video, but I am a customer of your company, and got the Easy ABL Pro, I think, and the Easy Board Light, and I've got the flex sheet on my printer. And every time somebody's like, "How did your print come out so good?" when I post a picture of it, I'm like, "Well, I know it's the products I use. I mean, you can start with a cheap printer, but you can get a lot of good quality prints out of it if you do some upgrades. It doesn't cost that much below the cost of an expensive printer."
Yeah, I mean that's what drew me into them. I look at it this way. Like I've got one of my favorite machines is my Ender 3 Pro, and that's got all of our upgrades in it. I told it up. I sat down and was like, okay, like what's the retail price on all these parts? All of our stuff, because it's got all our stuff on it. We bring it to events. It's kind of our show off machine. It's still only $600 fully kitted out. That's with an easy board or a dual Z kit, the leveling sensor. So, all the same kind of features you'll find on a higher end machine like a Prusa or something for $600. I almost prefer the cheaper machines and putting the work into them, because then I not only know that it's built well, but I can set it up to what I need for my needs, because there's a lot of machines out there that are nice machines, but there's little things I just don't like about them, which means I'm modifying them,
Right.
whereas if I just start out with a cheaper machine, use it as essentially a platform to build on, like I look at a lot of these machines, especially the cheaper ones, as not necessarily a final product, but a starting point to get to the end result that I'm looking for. And I know a lot of people see the cheaper Chinese machines like that, and that's why they are so popular. That's why they are so successful. Because they do have that value. They're not perfect. We've seen a lot of stuff catching on fire. We've seen a lot of stuff, just having complete oversight on QC stuff that I think shouldn't be happening, but that's the reality of dealing with these cheaper machines. But we kind of come in and try to fix these problems with these machines so people can have a safe and high performing printer without, gouging their wallet for thousands of dollars like some of these printers can be.
Yes. Very expensive. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Prusa and their printers. But I mean, my CR10, does a pretty good job once I've installed the upgrades that your company sells. I'm pretty excited about. So let's skip down and we'll go to, did you start your business with any co-founders or investors?
No investors. I started started everything. Like I said, the Easy ABL was the first product we had. And I literally had $1,000 in my savings account that I used to buy sensor hardware and parts, and then sold them, put the money back in, bought more, and just kept doing that, just putting the money back into the company until we got to the point where we are. We've not taken out any loans. We have no investors. We're all self-funded. I'm sure it's stifled our growth, or I shouldn't say stifled, but we could be larger. But to be completely honest, we don't want to be larger, because I don't want to lose that, more personal attention on things. We're not trying to be a dominating force in the industry. We're just trying to put out good quality stuff. And if that means we do lower volume, we have less employees, that's fine. And personally, the less employees we have to manage, the better. There is something said about that small business touch. And if, we keep growing, you get further and further distance from everything. Even now there's separation. I don't always know everything that's going on out in the shop because I have a manager to take care of that, but I'd prefer not to be further removed. And if we grow, that's just what has to happen, because, you can't be involved in every single thing.
So do you take an active approach in trying to grow the business, or do you just do you write out goals like next year I want to increase sales by 10% in this area and stuff like that?
No, we don't. The growth has been fairly steady. We are, right now we're seeing a little bit of I wouldn't call it a slow. Now we're just averaging back out to where we were at the beginning of the year. we did have like an uptick for a couple months when everybody was, at home, and, there were the stimulus checks going out and stuff. But now it's tapering off, and it's at a good spot. My goal isn't to, be able to be driving around a Lamborghini and shit. It's to just pay my bills and, have some hobbies and just be happy and live my life. And it's really cool that I'm actually able to have a company that is creating jobs for people, and they're able to, provide for their families through our company. It's crazy. It's also kind of a lot of pressure too, because you're like, man, if this fails, we got all these people that are relying on us to put food on their table, so it can be stressful at times.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Don't grow too fast. Like, I've actually seen a few companies in this industry where they've grown too fast and couldn't keep up, and they end up going out of business, so I would rather take the slow and steady rate. I mean, we have, like I say, slow and steady, we have grown a lot. But sometimes we do have to slow things down. One of the things is that we just take a lot of time to test things. So just kind of the natural progression of things, like we might have stuff that, is a little, outdated by standards, like our board we have has, a last generation stepper driver. Does it make a difference for the printer? It doesn't, but it's because we take time to test things fully instead of just trying to rush everything out. So we have the latest and greatest of everything. We focus on reliability and making sure that what we're selling people actually works correctly. And if that means we got to spend, almost a year testing it and working out every little kink and testing different scenarios, then that's what we're going to do, instead of just some of these companies where they send out a product that, kind of works, and then the customers end up being the testers for it. We've seen that a lot in this industry, and I'm sure we'll keep seeing that.
Just pushing out to meet those deadlines, yeah, that could definitely cause a problem with product quality and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Sorry, scanning ahead. I think that has covered pretty much all the questions except for our last one. I know you've mentioned experiencing failures. Is there a particular failure that you want to go into a story about, and maybe that could help other people?
So the one major thing that I would call a failure is our attempt at doing our own printer. We had started out with a nice baseline machine, had everything laid out, like, these are the upgrades we're going to do it. This is the custom stuff we're doing to it. We ordered 60 of them, which was not cheap. And the problem was we had people that we thought could do the work, and we sat down and tried to, throw them into the water, so to speak, and with other machines here before we actually went through and committed to ordering stuff. And they did well, but then when it actually came time to build the printers themselves, they just fell flat on their faces. It was a bunch of little stuff that just amounted to printers getting fried because they weren't paying attention to polarities, that kind of stuff. It was just a bunch of little things on each batch of machines that was adding up to them not launching, and we had them at the point where I probably could have sold them, and they might have worked, they might have not worked. But I recognize that if we put out a printer with our name on it, it could be more if it wasn't as perfect as it could be, it would end up doing more damage to the company. And I rather would have taken that loss, which is what we did, and not launched it. And we just liquidated out all the parts, and the machines themselves, we just sold them as is. We took like $150 loss per printer on like 55 printers. Some of them I gave away. I have one in my office here that was like the prototype, and it still works to this day. It's really upsetting because it still prints great. I actually just printed off this little stand for a pipe, and this printer's had no maintenance on it. So, I mean, the product worked. It was just I didn't have the talent to actually make the machines, so it comes back to hiring good people. Like if I had one of the guys back then that I do now, we probably would have a printer out by now, but I didn't have them here, and I was definitely too generous with giving people chances that ended up costing me money and making the product fail. You know, I had people that were like, you know, pulling the, I'll get it right the next time. I'll get it right the next time. Sorry, like I'll fix it. Well, then I'm paying them hourly to fix it. You know, I'm losing money on that. Like we lost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars just on labor that amounted to nothing. You know, so I'm not saying don't give people, you know, chances, but don't be overly generous and don't let them manipulate you into feeling bad because they screwed something up. You have to look out for your company, you know, because at the end of the day, if your company fails, you're out of your livelihood, you know, and if you got people that just can't do the job, that's just the reality of it. You need to be very careful about who you allow to work for you and the responsibility you give to them too. So, you know, you have the wrong person in, you know, the wrong position. It could be, you know, it could be curtains for the company, you know, but you could also have the right person in the wrong position too. So like we've had people that we've shuffled around and they do good in one area and they're terrible at the other. You know, there's another thing is finding where people excel in what areas of your company. And it's going to be different for every company. Like one of the hardest things too in finding people is that this is such a new industry that, you know, I can't really post, I need a 3D printer technician. If I need a guy to fix computers, I can post an IT technician, you know, job resume request or, you know, a job posting and get 1 million candidates in, you know, but this industry is so new and so niche, especially on like the consumer and, you know, prosumer and like the entry level commercial level, there's no 3D printer technician certifications. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of look for overlap there. You know, you've got some stuff that people who are, you know, computer nerds like, you know, IT people that will do well. You got electronics, but the problem with the printers is you not only have the, you know, the software that runs the printer, the firmware. You got the firmware, you got the hardware that actually makes up the machine. But then you also got the mechanical aspect. So you need somebody, in order to build a printer, you have to have somebody that's got the aptitude for, at the very least, electrical skills and mechanical skills to make sure the machine is physically built correctly. You know, and then if you get lucky, you'll get someone that also knows, you know, some programming. But that was the problem we had, is we had people that like just lacked like, you know, that natural feeling of when you're working on something, like this doesn't feel right. Like, you know, this bearing's binding up, like, and it's really hard to teach that. Even like we even had, when we were building the machines, a fully built, adjusted, tuned and working machine that they could go over and touch and feel and poke and prod. So it's, you know, it's literally duplicate this. Here's your example, duplicate this. We have 20 pages of documentation. This wire should go here and here. You know, this should get connected this way. This should get soldered up here. These should get spliced there. So we had a full assembly guide. We had a machine they could look at and they still messed it up. You know, because there's just, they were just people that weren't, they didn't care about it and they weren't passionate about it. And having somebody that kind of stuff interests them too is a huge plus for actually being successful with launching a printer. You know, because they're going to take their time and they're going to be aware of the things and, you know, go that extra mile and have that attention to detail that's needed to actually make a finished product. So, yeah, that was a big thing. It comes down to the staff. Like if we had people that were better suited for that skill set and job, or people that or at the very least, just people that were actually interested in learning about it instead of people coming in just to collect a paycheck, we would have a printer out by now, you know. But a lot of these people were just, it was just a job to them. Try to find people that are passionate, you know, that are interested in what you're doing. You know, you don't want people that just want to come in, punch the clock and leave. You know, certain positions you can have that, but you know, if you're doing the kind of stuff we are, you have to have people that are actually interested in this. You know, at the very least, interested in seeing the company succeed. You know, so that's about it on that topic.
Yeah.
It sucks, but you know, that's the reality of it. You know, it sounds bad to some people when you say that, you know, the people were the issue, but they really were. We tried, you know, first when we had our first failure, we're like, okay, well, we need better documentation. So we made documentation. You know, we had the example machines and stuff. So it's like, at a certain point, there is responsibility on the company to provide, you know, guidance on there. But throughout the whole process, myself and our manager was available for them to ask questions if they didn't know something, and they rarely ever reached out. And then we go and look over the machines, and they were all messed up. And the final straw was they were told not to turn them on until we came in and cleared everything. Okay. The guy turned on 10 machines, fried all the boards because he had the polarity backwards. Something simple. And that was when I said, we're done. We're done. We're walking away from this. So yeah.
It's tough break. I mean,
Yeah.
I've put together, probably not as much to the extent that you guys were, but when I ordered the Prusa, I bought it as a kit, so I was doing no soldering, but did have to do all that wiring. And, you know, it's very. You hear about the people who do, especially I think it's the bed warmer, the cables to keep the heat bed, doing the polarity backwards and stuff like that. And so there's definitely some concerns there, and you've got to pay attention. Yeah, I mean, we had a class that went over how to hire people, how to look for people, you know, and like you said, finding the right people and making sure that they're in the right position as well, because you can get hire what the book called an A player, but if you put them in a position that's not for them, you know, they turn into a B player.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tim, for answering all our questions. I think the class is really going to enjoy it. You were very thorough, and you're also a member of the 3D printing community, so I want to thank you for that as well.
Yeah, no, not a problem. So it was a pleasure talking to you. So hopefully this is helpful. I know that we probably have a million different, you know, things that don't go by the book, so to speak, that we do here. You know, I think we're a very non-standard case of, you know, how this all got started. You know, it's been a wild ride. That's really all I can sum it up with. It's been enjoyable, but it's been a ton of work. It's been hard on, you know, myself and, you know, my wife and our relationship and stuff. And, you know, like I said, some relationships with friends too. So, but, you know, anything worth doing is, you know, not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. Otherwise, it's probably not going to be worth doing or have much impact on your life, you know?
Yeah.
So.